In today's episode of the Motorhome Matt Podcast,
we unpack how much a motorhome would realistically cost you to own per month.
In the news, the 12 Daves of Christmas are here.
And we answer your questions on trackers, being declined for insurance, and converting a pop top to a high top.
Welcome to the Motorhome Matt Podcast. I'm Keith Gooden.
And I'm Motorhome Matt.
Industry insights and expert advice for the world of motorhomes, caravans and campervans. And it's all brought to you with thatleisureshop.com and sponsored by Ripe.
Now remember, please do follow on your favourite podcast app, or if you're watching on YouTube, click subscribe and that little bell.
In the news, Matt, the 12 Daves, D-A-V-E-S, of Christmas have started. And what
on earth is this?
Yeah.
This was a huge success last year, and it's backed by popular demand. So Dave runs our little shop in North Somerset at That Leisure Shop, and no doubt you would have seen his big, beamy, smiley face when you've popped in, or if you follow us on socials.
His big, beamy face?
Yeah, his big, beamy, smiley face. He's like Mr. Happy. He has such a great smile, and he's a lovely guy. And 12 Daves of Christmas are 12 days of offers, brought to you by Dave, and the offers are discounted products and great Christmas gift ideas or ideas for products you might need for next year's travels.
Is it a different offer every day?
Different offer every day. Now, some of them go out of stock really fast, so they might be limited time offers or limited number offers, so you need to get in quick. So follow us on social media, on Facebook, on Instagram, at That Leisure Shop, and you'll tune in to Dave's deals. And even if you're not in the market to buy that product, they are normally brilliant value, and Dave is hilarious.
Now we're talking about Christmas. It's actually October for us because if you
don't spoil the magic.
If you've been looking and listening, then you will know that Motorhome Matt is having some surgery, and so we're recording these ahead of time. So we don't know what the deals are yet, but one thing is guaranteed: they will be Davey and they will be gravy.
You always have to make it rhyme, don't you?
Yeah,
wavy. We're back with another Alan Rogers Campsite of the Month feature, and I'm joined by Rob from Alan Rogers. Rob, where are we off to this month?
So we're heading to the Costa Daurada, the golden coast of Spain, south of Tarragona.
You're still trying to tempt me to eastern Spain, aren't you?
Absolutely, yeah.
So tell us a bit more.
So this campsite is called Playa Montroig. Yeah. They describe themselves as a camping resort. It's part of the Leading Campings group. We've talked about Leadings before.
We have, yeah.
They've only got about 30 campsites within that group, and there's only 2 in Spain. So that really does show you the quality of this campsite. It's a little more lively than some of the more rural campsites that we've discussed, and it's a big site with top-class facilities. They describe themselves as a 5-star resort, and it certainly lives up to that name.
Okay, so what can we expect to see there?
They've got 4 pools in the garden pool area. They've got 8 slides. Some of the pools are heated in the low season. A splash pool for the little ones with fountains, mini slides, and one of those tipping buckets that my daughter still thinks is hilarious when I get caught out by. They've got direct beach access with the Tucanamar tropical beach bar, parasols, sunbeds. I'm already there.
And food is a big theme again of this campsite, isn't it?
Yeah, traditional Catalan farmhouse-style food, Mediterranean food, lots of seafood, tapas, snacks on the terrace bar, and they've got a lot of activities, so when you've eaten so much that you can't move, you can get out onto that padel court, football, basketball, and boule, or I probably should say petanque with it.
I was going to say petanque, let's do that. It's far more relaxed. Yeah. And then what can we expect to see in the local area? Because there's lots to do, isn't there?
There is, yeah. So you've got Cambrils, it's a bustling coastal town nearby, beautiful beaches, a lively promenade, so you can walk off a little bit more of that food before you dive into one of their fresh seafood restaurants. The picturesque village of Montroig, which is known for its mountaintop chapel, the San Ramon Chapel on top of the rock there.
Big views.
Yeah.
Big views.
Tarragona is nearby. We've talked about Tarragona before, but obviously that's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, so lots of Roman architecture in there. And you've got the Playa Montroig 3 theme parks, parks. So you've got the water park, the theme park, and the Ferrari World there as well.
Loads to do. This campsite is also known for its spa and wellness centre. What's going on there?
Well, when you've done all those activities, you need somewhere to relax. So there's a range of therapies in there. Spa, there's jacuzzi, sauna, Turkish bath, a Japanese garden solarium, and a relaxation area. So yeah, you can really chill out when you've hit the beach.
And this is also not just motorhome caravan pitches. There's other types of accommodation too.
They offer a range of bungalows, villas, including their innovative Mari Eco Lodge. So that is in a converted shipping container. So it's spacious. They've taken the side off this thing, and so it's nice and airy. Wooden interiors, hammocks, coffee machine, and it is right on the beach.
Wow. And loads of the pitches, I understand, have beach access.
Yeah, they do. They've got 6 pitch types. So there are those sat further back from the beach, which are their standard pitches, and then as you move closer to the beach, you end up on their Premium Plus ones. But 47 of their pitches have got direct to the beach access.
Wow. Amazing. And when is this site open?
It's open from late March. In 2025, that's around the 28th, and it'll close around about the 26th of October, so late October.
And cost?
So €32 is the starting price. As usual, that's for a pitch with 2 people and electricity. But if you're staying for longer, then offers are available.
Fantastic. So, Eastern Spain, if that's your chosen destination, where are we this month?
We're on the Costa Daurada, the Golden Coast, south of Tarragona, and it's Playa Montroig Camping Resort.
Thanks, Rob. So if you want to find out about all of Alan Rogers' campsites, including this one, just head to mhmp.info/Alan Rogers.
So today in the podcast, we're asking that question. It's a toughie, but it needs to be asked, and we're the men for the job. Can you afford to run a motorhome month in and month out? What is the real monthly cost? Yeah. Matt?
Well, we obsess a lot about the purchase price, and then there are the obvious things that people, of course, consider. So we thought we'd list down them all. So the first one is finance. Are you going to take finance to buy the motorhome? And these days, increasingly, we're seeing more and more people do this. So you need to consider what's that going to cost every month. And with motorhome finance, the good news is you can take long payment terms, 15 years, which will keep the monthly cost down. You do, of course, pay more interest. And we unpacked this recently with a whole episode on motorhome finance with Steve from motorhome.finance. But I reckon let's start the running at around £300 a month. That's kind of an affordable number for most people.
And so what does that buy you then?
So it depends on the term. So if you're looking at a motorhome that's around 40k and you could borrow that money with a reasonable deposit, you're probably looking at around £300 or £400 a month. So most people's finance typically is around that number. And it depends on so many variables: the size of your deposit, the appetite of the finance company to lend on it, the rate they've given you. That's another big one too. You may have got a special offer, may have been 0% when you took it, and the term. How long were you going to run the finance for? But let's just say, for the purposes of this exercise today, we're going to budget £300. You may not need finance, so £300 is irrelevant. The next one we all know about is insurance.
Yeah, you've got your motorhome, you got the finance, insurance. Yeah.
Now, we all know we need that, and again, there are so many variables to this. It depends where you live. The value of the motorhome is a big one too. Your claim history. But in my experience, most people are paying somewhere between £300 and £500 a year.
Is that all?
Yeah, it's not. Well, that's interesting you say that. Lots of people say this to me. I mean, if it's a £100,000 motorhome, you're going to be paying £800 a year, probably, or thereabouts. But again, let's assume we're going kind of world of averages. The motorhome's worth 40 or 50k. You live in a respectable neighbourhood. I would guess, and it is a guess, and I'm only going from my own experience, you're going to be looking at about £400 or £500 a year. So £40 a month, okay? Broad brushstroke this is. We just want to get to a rough end number, don't we? That's the whole point. So I would budget £40 a month for insurance.
Right, road tax then. How much is that going to cost me?
So again, this one is determined by the engine size and the weight, and whether the emissions were put on the certificate of conformity when it was new. If they were, you would be paying a much higher road tax than if it's just a motor caravan and there's no emissions on that certificate.
Can you just explain that a little bit more?
It's a whole podcast in itself. So when you buy a motorhome, you get given a certificate of conformity, and it's got the weights and measures of the vehicle. Everything that means it complies to be a motor caravan, an M1SP, or M1 is the categorisation at the DVLA. And you need that certificate if you ever want to export the vehicle from the UK to, say, Spain. Now, normally, the CO, the emissions, are not written on a motorhome certificate of conformity, whereas on a car, they are.
Yeah, they most certainly are, yeah.
And those emissions determine the road tax. So if you've got a Range Rover, it's extortionate. I've got an old Range Rover, and it's now, gosh, it must be nearly 600 quid a year to tax it, because its emissions are high. It's an older diesel. It's brilliant to tow in anything, but it's high to road tax. A motorhome doesn't have any of those emissions on normally, and it's really important you check this when you're buying a brand new motorhome. Is ask the dealer to see the certificate of conformity, and if there are no emissions, it's just an M1 SP. It's an M1 special purpose vehicle. It's a motor caravan, and it has 2 tax classes. So we're going to assume, for the sake of this exercise, it's around a 2-litre engine, thereabouts, and it's 3.5 tonnes. Now, oddly, road tax on that vehicle is now, I think, £365 a year. If it's over 3.5 tonnes, so 3,650 or 3,800, it's £171 a year.
How so?
It's private heavy goods versus private light goods. And a private heavy goods, for the very first time in years, was put up by £6. It used to be 165 quid a year. And it's always been an odd one as to why a motorhome that weighs more should be taxed a tax value of less. I've never understood why. It's in a similar tax band to trade plates and lorries. And can you imagine if they really started putting that up? Lorries would just queue up and block roads. They've never really messed around with it until 2025, and they put it up by £6. So it is now £171. Whereas private light goods, so anything under 3.5 tonne, with an engine of around 2 litres, is typically 365 quid. And that they've put up and up and up. Every year they seem to raise that because they're not affecting trade and business, just consumers.
You know, I wish I'd never asked.
Yeah, I know. But it gets more complicated than this. So if the engine is smaller, it's even more complicated. So we're going just broad brushstroke. But yeah, the mainstream motorhomes are typically 365 quid a year at the moment, or 165 if you're heavier. So we're going to budget that you're a mainstream motorhome, we're going to say 30 quid a month, right? Roughly.
Okay. Storage then. Well, why do I need to store it? I can just keep it on the front, can't I?
More and more
in the
people.
Street outside my house.
Yeah, well, you could do, but some insurers won't insure you if you do that. Maybe they'll only insure you for 24 hours. You might have a deed of covenant on your house that restricts you from parking on the drive or on the road, and you can only park there for 10 hours. So you need to check this. You might have neighbours that get upset when you pull up outside their house in your motorhome. So storage is a solution for many people. More and more modern houses, we discussed this at length before, haven't we? More and more new builds don't even have space for a motorhome.
And they do have covenants. I mean, remember I bought one, nearly 30 years ago now, so a while back, and it had a covenant that if you had a caravan, 6 weeks maximum per year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and that was 1997.
Right, okay, yeah. So, and of course, motorhomes and caravans have got bigger and bigger, and they block more and more light. So storage is a solution for many people, and it is becoming more expensive in the UK to store a motorhome or caravan as business rates go up and land rates, rent and so on go up. So typically, and it does vary where you are in the country, but I would say if you budgeted £50 a month, that's going to cover you for most storage sites. Our own storage business is $699 a year, so we're slightly over that. But I was talking to a storage company in the southwest, and they are £780 a year, I think. And some are well over £1,000. Some are the old school pound a day, but they're not registered with the trade body CASOA, the Caravan Storage Site Owners Association. We're a gold registered site, and we are roughly 50 quid a month, thereabouts. So that's what I would budget.
Right, fantastic. So that's up to £800 a year. Servicing and habitation checks and all the rest of it.
Yeah, so let's assume you're going to have an oil change every year and an air filter. You're going to be diligent, and rather than do it every 2 years, I think oil is the lifeblood of the motorhome. So I would do it every year.
Even if you're just doing, a couple of thousand a year?
Yeah, if it's sat around, I would just replace the oil. And it's only going to cost £200-300. So again, I would budget £25 a month for servicing. Habitation check. I'm a huge fan of endorsing a habitation check every year. You need to have one for manufacturer warranty to be upkept. They want you to have one done every year. And again, it depends who you use for it. If it's mobile, it might be under £200. If it's a mobile engineer coming to your house or to your storage business, or you might go to a main dealer and you'll pay £400. But for the sake of argument, let's go £20 a month.
Okay, so we've replaced the oil and had a service, £299-ish. Let's call it 300, shall we? Habitation checks up to £400. Now, repairs. I mean, my motorhome, I bought it second hand, but it was in pretty good nick. Why are you budgeting up to £500 in repairs?
Well, I think you should. I mean, things like tyres are consumable, and you're going to spend £400 on 2 tyres probably if you get camper spec tyres. You might break a door handle. You could spend thousands of pounds. In a recent episode where we were talking about Warranty Solutions Group, my own motorhome probably would have cost me £2,000 to repair the things that went wrong on it just in that year. So then we're budgeting £200 a month for those repairs. I think that was unusual. My fly screen door broke. The oven wouldn't stay lit. The bathroom tap failed. I had a kind of a calamity of things.
We had a poltergeist.
Something went on. Yeah. But we have been using it a lot. So I think how often you're using it is going to determine more wear and tear. But then equally not using it, that can cause issues with damp, because it stood around and things seize up.
Balance right, haven't you?
Yeah. And so my advice is use it. So I reckon if you're budgeting for repairs, let's say £500 a year, that's a ballpark. And it might be you're lucky and you spend £20 on a little widget.
But then the year after it could be £600.
It could. So for the sake of this exercise, let's say £40 a month.
Okay, then we're on to sort of, I would call them ancillary costs, things which aren't fixed cost: fuel, campsites, ferries, wine.
Well, well. Before there's too many variables in there, isn't it? Dancing girls, wowzers. So it depends where you're going to go. If you're doing a trip to Spain, you're going to blow £500 on the ferry in that one trip, just getting down to Bilbao. You might spend hundreds of pounds on fuel in one trip. You might just do little short weekend breaks. So can we keep that separate? Can we do that? Are we allowed to do that?
Yeah, okay.
Under the rules of this little game?
Yeah, so you're not going to include all those costs in your final figure. Is that what you're saying? Yeah,
because even our own use, we might choose to go off-grid to what we call a Brit stop, which is a pub car park.
Yeah.
And then we'll go and use the pub, and on that basis, the stopover is free. But then we'll go and blow £120 or more on a lovely meal and some drinks.
Pie, chips and drinks, yeah?
Well, no, it's probably going to be a Michelin star meal, I'll be honest. But we only do that once a month because we're posh.
Once a month? Now,
maybe not every month.
When did I last have a Michelin star meal?
Well, not Michelin star, maybe Michelin star style. We love watching Great British Menu and, programmes on the telly box like that.
Yeah, big plates, a little bit of food in the
sometimes. But we love following where those chefs end up, and often they end up in a pub. So we'll go and find that pub and go and eat in it. And it's brilliant. We talked about it before. We were doing the White Horses of Wiltshire, and there are 10 of them. Yeah. And we would go and explore the White Horse and stay in a local pub overnight for free. But then we go and spend, and we turn that 3 nights camping into £100-odd night out. So, and then there are other times where we'll stay on a campsite and it's 25 or 50 quid a night, depending on the campsite.
So you could be going from anything from the bronze package to the platinum one. Is basically what you're saying.
It's too many variables.
It's up to you.
That's use case, derived. So that's down to you.
I'm crossing.
We're ignoring that. So if he really has scrubbed it out. Yeah. So let's ignore those. We also need to bear in mind as well, there might be some subscription costs. Can't say it.
For what?
Trackers. So maybe that's going to be £10 a month,
right?
Maybe £15 a month. And maybe they've got a SIM card as well you're paying a subscription on, which could equally be £10 a month.
Yep.
So small costs, but the point is these costs all add up.
They all add up,
We end up getting to a number broad brushstroke.
So that's your finance, your insurance of £500, the road tax up to £365, storage up to £800, service and habitation £700 top end, repairs £500, then subs at 10, let's put 30 quid or whatever in for your subscriptions, and you add it all up together, and
if you haven't got finance, you're probably looking at £200 to £300 a month. Realistically.
That sounds good.
If you've got finance, it depends what the finance is, as I said earlier. So you could be looking at £500 to £800 a month as a cost of ownership to use that vehicle. Now, the big caveat on this, and the other huge cost that doesn't become apparent until you sell it, is depreciation.
Yes. So I've bought it for, say, £40,000. I expect to sell it in 2 years' time for 42.
Well, in 2020, you probably could have got 50 for it. But depreciation is back. It's bad news, and it really is back.
Well, when you buy a car, your car depreciates.
Exactly. I have a little formula to depreciation, so you can work this out for yourself. So if you're buying something brand new or very nearly new, it's going to depreciate in the first year by 20%. In the second year... A fifth.
So my £40,000, let's call it £50,000 for the sake of others. Yeah. That's gone down by $10,000 in year one.
In year one.
So in year two, it's worth £40,000.
This is harsh, to be fair.
Yeah.
But yeah, 50 grand new, it's worth 40 grand in a year.
And then year two?
Year two, 10%. And year three, 5%. So in year three, your 50 grand motorhome is worth how much?
Hang on. What was the last one? 5%, wasn't it?
5%.
That would be 1,800 off that. 1,800. Hang on a second. I'm doing it. 35,000.
I was going to say it's 35k. Could you not do that in your head?
Well, why couldn't you just tell me?
I do this too often. That's the thing. So in 3 years, you've lost 15 grand. That's quite a lot of money, isn't it? It's 5 grand. Yes. So we've then immediately doubled our cost of ownership to £500 a month.
But you say you've lost it, but you're buying it's a comestible. You're buying it.
What?
A comestible. You're buying it, and you really do expect to make a profit at the end after you've driven around of it and had holidays. Even though you've been paying for all this stuff you've been talking about, you really do expect to come out the other end of the tunnel and still be in profit.
No. You used to be able to. So only a few years ago you were, but depreciation is back. And I have to say, a lot of people are finding this a bitter pill to swallow. And of course, there are too many variables here as well. So it depends on the dealership willing to bid you for it, or if you sell it privately. And remember, a private sale is always going to have a lower value than one from a forecourt, has no warranty with it. But that's my formula, 20-10-5, 1, 2, 3. And that's the formula I use if I'm trying to value something. And I will then round it up. So in reality, your 50k motorhome was 50k when you bought it, and 3 years later, we're saying it's 35. The new one is probably now 55k. And I might get 42 for it, maybe 40. So that might up the value to you. But then you've got to consider as well, I'm saying that's the retail price. You're going to sell it to a dealer who wants 5, 6 or even 10 grand across it. So they might be offering you 25 or 30 for that motorhome. And you're probably going to go, that's too much. I can't lose that much money. And I had this recently. Someone was looking to sell their motorhome and they paid for it during the pandemic. They paid a premium price because there was a queue for them and there was a race to get them. And I said, this is what they're selling for now, 3 years old. This is what I think yours is worth. And they said, that's too much and we're going to keep it.
Right.
And they have kept it.
And I got some bad news for you. I went back and did my calculations properly. 34,200 is actually what it
just
comes
under. So I would round it up to 35, 36. It is a harsh curve, but that is one to consider that often gets overlooked. So there you've got it. I reckon running costs typically with no finance, £200 or £300 a month. With finance, plus the monthly payment. And then, of course, you've got to consider the depreciation. But as you say, Keith, how many holidays can you have? You have 20, 30 holidays over a 3-year period, and they've cost you maybe 10 or 15 grand, and you've got some fantastic memories. You then sell the van. Yes, you've lost money, but you've had all these fantastic trips, and you've been to these places that you would not have gone to on an airplane.
You're living the dream.
You are living the dream.
And in something that you love, and you've made comfortable for yourself and for your family and for your friends. So,
So it's not a cheap pastime, but I still think it's affordable, and it can be made affordable depending on your use case and how you plan to use it.
Good luck to you. Matt, some people think VPNs are just for hiding what you're watching online. Is that really all they're made for?
No, not at all. A VPN, like Nord, is really about safety. So if you're on a campsite Wi-Fi, a coffee shop hotspot, or even using mobile data abroad, you don't know who else is on that network. Now, NordVPN protects your data so no one can snoop. It keeps your banking safe, and it stops your internet provider tracking what you're up to. And here's the thing. It's not about having anything to hide. It's about protection. It's like locking the door on your motorhome. Not because you've got gold bars inside, but because you don't want anyone poking around trying to steal your valuables.
I suppose that's a fair way of putting it.
Yeah, NordVPN is fast, easy to use, and runs quietly in the background. I use it every trip. Click the link in the description and you can try it with a discount and a 30-day money-back guarantee.
It's the Motorhome Matt Podcast with me, Keith Gooden.
And me, Motorhome Matt.
And it's brought to you with thatleisureshop.com and sponsored by Ripe. It's time for our Q&A, the questions and answers, where you ask the questions and Motorhome Matt, for he is the expert, will find out the answer. Like I say, if he doesn't know himself, he'll ask somebody who jolly well does. So first of all, we have Brian Sims, who got in touch, and he wants to know about trackers.
Hi, my name's Brian Sims. Actually, we met at a show, Norfolk. Anyway, by the way, I was watching a podcast of yours on Monday about trackers, and I can't find it again. And what I wanted to know is there was quite a basic tracker there that just connected on. You got 3 years on there, and then it was £60 after that 3 years. I wonder if you could let me know what that tracker was. I really would appreciate it, because I've just bought a new motorhome. Thank you.
So, Brian and his trackers. Is he crackers?
There it rhymes again.
There he goes. I'm a poet and I didn't know it.
Yeah, absolutely. None of us did. So, Brian, it's a GPS bob unit, I think you're referring to. It's a little tracker that literally just wires to a 12-volt connection, plus and minus. I've got one on my VW, and you can monitor it on your app. It's brilliant. They're not Thatcham approved, though. So if your insurer requires you to have a Thatcham approved tracker, this one won't cut it. But GPS Bob do. Thatcham approved trackers, a whole range of them do. And they are Motorhome Matt approved as well. Fantastic business, great prices, and they are shaking up the tracking industry for sure. There's also other products that we've not talked about yet on the podcast. Scorpion have a new tracker that doesn't need wiring up at all. You just literally hide it in the van. And that's one that might be worth looking at too, Scorpion Track, who are also Motorhome Matt approved. So two great businesses with great products, so plenty to look at. And there is lots of content on the podcast about trackers and some of the challenges that industry is facing as well.
Cheers, Brian. And remember, if you are recording a question for us, or indeed emailing Matt with a question, and we'll give you the details at the end of this section, do put where you're from. It does help us put a pin in a map. Now, Ripe sponsor this podcast, but we have a question here from @PaulWaller8218, and he has got a Ripe question for us. He says, Ripe hassle-free, they wouldn't insure me, and they haven't given me a reason why.
So we sent that comment, Paul, you'll be pleased to know, to Ripe. And they came back with, "Hi Paul, sorry to have received this comment from you, as we do always aim to make things as easy as possible for our customers. Without knowing exactly what the issue could have been for you, it's hard for me to answer, but I will try and break it down for you and explain the types of things that could occur during the quote process."
And this answer comes from Mel at the Ripe team, by the way. She goes on to say, in the event of an issue occurring, we do encourage you to call us, and we can either explain or to try and put it right if we can. It could be various things, including driving license information or a claims history.
Mel went on to say, sometimes people will alert us to an issue, and we've been able to make sure that doesn't happen again for anyone. So getting feedback is really important so that we can be constantly making improvements for our customers.
And she says, really sorry you had this negative experience, and she hopes that you got covered in the end. That's Mel from the Ripe team.
There you go. So we don't just show you all the positives. Ripe and us are completely open to all your feedback, and we'll do our best to champion for you. So you can get an exclusive 15% off your premium by clicking the link in the episode description.
Keith's in Eastbourne. Hi, Matt and Keith. We have a 2022 Auto Sleeper Air. It's a pop-top transit custom, which we've owned from new. And like many people, we've decided that we would like to change to a hard or high top, as it's otherwise known. Should we get our Auto Sleeper Air converted from a pop-top to a hard top, or sell our vehicle to find another?
Obviously, having owned our vehicle from new, we know its service history and all minor modifications we've done to get it how we want it. We have struggled to find transit converters down south who could do the conversion, although a few VW converters have said they may well be willing to give it a go.
So Keith says, also, if we convert what we already have, do we need to inform DVLA of any changes? He says, really enjoyed the podcast, so informative. Cheers. Keith, another Keith, this time in Eastbourne. So Matt, what's the answer?
Well, I'd say it's a great question, and I understand why you would want to convert it. And by all means, you could. There's nothing to stop
That's how politicians think. Well, that's the great question. They're thinking.
It is a great question. Yeah. How many other people are thinking of doing this? I don't know. I'm intrigued. I've never considered doing this, but then I'm not a fan of pop-tops, as has been well documented in the past. But I would be very mindful of the impact of a dealer to accept it as a part exchange, because it is no longer an original vehicle. So you've created something that's not necessarily a white elephant, but it's not book. That may be a factor going forward, and perhaps speak to a dealer about their willingness to take it if it were a hard top. Maybe they would prefer a hard top. Maybe they're easier to sell than a pop top. But it may suit you, but it does become unique in the market, and it might be harder to value because it's not in the book, as it were.
Would dealers automatically know that he'd made the conversion?
Someone that knows the Auto Sleeper range would, for sure, yes. But many, a high street dealership that just sells campervans may not. And many consumers may not realise that this has been converted. So I'd also add, though, that your insight into its service history is really valid, and I get that. And if you're dead comfortable with the vehicle, it's been highly maintained, and you know every little nut and bolt and every little thing you've done to it, that's valid. And that may be the motivator to do it. And you can go on using this vehicle that you've fallen in love with, and it continues to be ideal for your use. I see no reason to inform the DVLA. If it's a motor caravan already, it's still a motor caravan, and they won't have any interest in whether it's pop top or high top. The only thing I'd say is if you're changing its weight, because this gun might be heavier having that high top on, or you're changing number of seatbelts, for example, it may definitely be worth informing DVLA. And certainly, if you're changing it to a high top, I definitely would tell your insurance company. Now, they may not care because it may not be a criteria that they're concerned about, but I definitely would tell them that you've done it, or maybe speak to them before you do it.
So thanks for the question, Keith. Hope that helps. Okay, Matt, how do people get in touch?
We would love it if you did. Just head to mhmp.info/Ask Matt. You can record your question. As Keith says, please do tell us where in the world you are, or fill in the form and we'll read it for you.
And if you're looking for trusted brands and services, then make sure you visit the Motorhome Matt approved directory. You can find it at mhmp.info/approved.
And remember to follow on your favourite podcast app, or if you're watching on YouTube, click subscribe and that little bell.